Welcome, YouTubers, to my channel. Today's craft is this telltale heart in a fake canvas, broken canvas, within a shadow box. I have dyslexia, so it's difficult for me to read. I hated English class because they would always call on me to read. In 7th grade, I had an English teacher who was trying to help me. We would have to read books, and each student had to read a paragraph, and I was called upon, and the story that we had to read was The Telltale Heart. I was so entranced by the story that I didn't just read one paragraph, I continued to read, even though I needed help from the teachers from time to time. And my English teacher didn't stop. Even after the bell rang and everyone started rushing to get to their class, I kept reading. And she used that and suggested that I go to the library and check out The Raven. So The Telltale Heart was my first introduction to Edgar Allen Poe. So this is my version of a Telltale Heart. A fake busted canvas in a shadow box with the Telltale Heart in the center of a portrait of Edgar Allen Poe and the words, a paragraph of The Telltale Heart. And this is how I done it. I hope you enjoy it, and as always, happy crafting. Okay, so now we're working on The Telltale Heart. And you're going to need your shadow box pre-made. DIY is in the tutorial for The Raven. Now, there's a trend going on now for a busted canvas. And I had this idea, what if we did a busted canvas in a shadow box? Problem is that finding a canvas to fit inside the shadow box is not possible. So I had to make my own canvas. So what I did, show you, okay, is that I made a cardboard frame using these cardboards. They come in packing. Usually they're on the corners to prevent any dents, or you could use any cardboard that's very stiff. And then I use canvas paper. So I did a frame, and then I stuck the canvas paper on top. So we're going to do a busted canvas. This is my first time doing a busted canvas, so I hope that it works out, especially since I had to make my own canvas. So for the Telltale Heart, I printed out with a gray background the story, but you can't fit the whole story, so I only fit the last part of the story. And this is going to be the inside that is the busted out part that comes out. And I found this picture of Edgar Allen Poe holding a heart, and this is going to go on the outside. So first we're going to do our canvas on the inside. So I am going to get me a paintbrush, and I'm going to get me some Elmers glue. Oops, maybe too much. I'm going to scoop this up because that is maybe too much. Take my handy tool here. There we go. Now, for my paintbrush, I am going to paint or spread the glue. So we're going to put our paper down here, and I'm going to use my bone knife to make sure there is no bubbles. Going from the inside outward. So we're going to set that aside to let that dry, and then we're going to work on our heart. Okay, so here's our telltale heart. Now, when I got this, it says, heart, press me. So I thought it did something, okay, but no, it's just a heart. Then I realized it shouldn't have said press me, it should have said squeeze me, because it's like one of those stress balls. So anyways, I got this at, okay, so due to some technical difficulties, you missed the last part of the heart, but that's not much. I had just said that it looks plastic, doesn't look real, so we're going to paint it. So I painted it brown, the first coat. Now I'm going to paint the second coat. Make sure you get in all the grooves. The whole reason I'm painting it brown is to give it a contrast, a foreground that's going to be darker than the paint on the surface, which will be red, of course. Okay, so now we're going to let this dry. Okay, so the heart is dry. So now we're going to I'm taking a sponge and some classic red and just heavily go over it. Now we're going to just let it dry. Okay, so now the moment of truth, whether the fake canvas will work for a broken canvas. So I'm going to poke a hole, or try. Where my center is, and I don't want to go above his head, so I'm going to poke a hole there. Now I'm going to flip it over. Now, off camera, where the white of the printer paper was, I painted it black. Alright. thing I have is anything round is here. And it looks like I may have, yeah, I painted the words wrong. I painted them face down when I should have painted them face up, so they're not showing. Okay, so our shadow box. I've already punched the hole and fed the lights in. Now I'm going to deglue the lights. I want the lights in the back and to the center, so I'm going to turn them on so I know where the lights are. Okay, so the lights are in there in a circular motion so that it's around the heart. Okay, so I had to tear the old canvas off and start again exactly the way I did. This difference is that instead of a box cutter, I used my scissors and it turned out so much better. Now we're going to put it inside our shadow box. This time I am going to use craft glue. With my craft glue, I'm going to glue the corners, the edges, sorry. So carefully I am gluing the edges, because it doesn't dry as fast. Now that the edges are hot glued, I'm going to put, glued with craft glue, I'm going to take the hot glue and put in each of the corners. And then I'm going to carefully, without touching the glue, slide our canvas inside and press it down. And voila, we have a broken canvas inside a shadow box. Try with the light. Okay, so now that the heart is dry, I'm taking some white, mixing it with the same red, that classic red, and I'm got my sponge, but I'm going to make sure that I only have a little bit, just going over it lightly in certain places, giving it a light dab here and there. And then I'm going to let that dry. So I have poked a hole in my heart so that I can have it sitting here where it's not touching the sides and not touching the edges or the bottom. It's just hanging there. And I'm going to take my fake blood and I'm going to drip it on each of the holes or the valves or whatever you call them. and just letting it naturally drip. Lift it from the bucket for a minute so that you can see. And we're just going to let it sit there and let the fake blood dry. Okay, so our heart is done. Looks more realistic now. Off camera I painted it with some decoupage glue that has varnish to give it that wet look. And here's our shadow box. It looks great. Two things. I didn't think you could see the homemade frame or the wires, but you could, so off camera I painted the frame black and the wires black for the lights. It would have been better to paint the frame black before you started and to paint the wires of the thing of the lights before you put the canvas in, but I was able to do it with just being patient. So now we're going to glue our heart into our canvas, taking some craft glue. Doing a circle, finding where I want it. Okay. Now I'm going to take some hot glue. The hot glue is just to hold it in. While the craft glue is drying, I'm going to take some more craft glue, put it down. This one's empty, so I'm going to grab my new one here. And we're going to set the heart inside. Press it down. And that's what it looks like. Now, I'm going to take an old toothbrush that I usually use for painting and my fake blood. I'm going to dip it in. And for blood spatters, I'm merely going to flick. Okay. And so you can see, turn it around, clean this up so we don't get it on our outside of our. And I'm going to just let it dry. So, it's dry, and after you've shooken it well enough to know that the heart is not in, it's time to do the next step. Now, my husband says that the lights are too visible, so we're going to turn the lights on. And I'm going to take some of this graveyard moss and my hot glue gun and I am going to put some of this graveyard moss inside. Around the lights, but not where it blocks the lights. Now I'm going to shake to get any of the excess that didn't glue down. Give it a good shake. And this is what you have. So now time to put the frame on. We're going to do it just like we did the shadow box for the raven. We're going to set this aside, take off the protective plastic. Okay, that's one side. Okay, so once the protective plastic is out, I'm going to take some craft glue around the corners. And we're going to take our shadow box. Use some craft glue again around the edges. And we're going to snap it on. Make sure it snaps on. Snapped on there. Turn around. And there you have it. You have your shadow box of the Telltale Heart. Now, finally, while we're waiting for that to dry, we are going to put our decorations on the frame. This is completely optional. These are the clay applique, the little decorations I made with air dry clay. I painted them black and dry brushed them with gold. Now with craft glue I'm going to put them on, but first I'm going to arrange them the way I want. Now, once this dries, then you have finished. And you have your Telltale Heart box. And so we are done.